The dying ember. The abandoned mining colony drifted in silence, its corridors dark except for the occasional flicker of dying emergency lights, dust particles floating through the stale air like forgotten memories. The whole station a tomb of human ambition left to rot among the stars. Nissa dragged herself through the narrow passage, her violet skin dulled to an unhealthy gray, each breath a struggle against the weakness consuming her from within, the energy reserves in her body depleting with every heartbeat, every movement sending waves of agony through her limbs. She had been running for 3 cycles now, ever since the attack on the last Nathorian sanctuary, her ship damaged beyond repair and her supplies exhausted, the curse of her kind weighing heavier than the wounds across her back. Just a little further, she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible, knowing it was a lie, knowing that without the essence her body craved she would fade into nothing within hours, becoming just another casualty of a war that had already claimed her entire world. Her legs gave out and she collapsed against the cold metal wall, sliding down until she sat in a heap of exhaustion and defeat, her deep violet eyes struggling to focus on the corridor ahead, wondering if this forgotten human outpost would be her final resting place. The taste of despair filled her mouth. Bitter and heavy, she had survived so much, fought so hard to keep her people's memory alive, and now it would end here alone and forgotten, her fingers trembling as she tried to summon strength that simply wasn't there anymore. Footsteps echoed from somewhere in the darkness, measured and cautious, the sound of someone exploring where they probably shouldn't be. Nissa tried to move, to hide, but her body refused to obey. Leaving her exposed and vulnerable, Dr. Chen rounded the corner with his scanning device. The medic had come to the abandoned station searching for salvageable medical supplies, his weathered face showing the weariness of someone who'd seen too much suffering, his dark hair streaked with premature gray despite being only 35. He froze when his light fell upon her, the scanner dropping from his hands with a clatter that seemed deafening in the silence. For a moment neither of them moved, human and alien locked in a tableau of surprise and fear. "Please," Nissa managed to whisper, the word coming out as barely more than a breath. "I mean no harm. I'm just—" Her words cut off as another wave of weakness crashed over her. Her head dropping forward, Dr. Chen's medical training overrode his shock and he rushed forward, kneeling beside her with practiced ease, his hands hovering uncertainly before gently checking her pulse. Finding it weak and irregular, his mind racing through everything he'd heard about her species. "You're dying," he said quietly, not a question but a statement of medical fact, his fingers detecting the strange coolness of her skin, the way her breathing came in shallow gasps, recognizing the signs of someone on the edge of complete system failure. Nissa managed a weak nod, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of resignation and ancient sorrow. "My kind needs, we require a certain essence to survive. Without it we simply fade. There's nothing you can do, human." I'm beyond saving, but Dr. Chen had already made his decision. Something in her eyes called to the part of him that had become a doctor to help those in need, regardless of species or circumstance, the part that had lost too many patients and refused to lose another without trying. "I've read about your people," he said softly, his voice steady despite the fear curling in his stomach. "I know what you need and I know the legends say it's deadly to the donor, but those are just stories meant to scare children. Aren't they?" Nissa stared at him in disbelief. Surely this human couldn't be suggesting what she thought he was. "You don't understand what you're offering. The bond it creates. The risk—" "I understand enough," Dr. Chen interrupted gently, already unbuttoning his collar, exposing the vulnerable curve of his neck, his pulse visible beneath tan skin. "You need help and I can provide it. That's all that matters to me right now." "Why would you risk yourself for someone you don't even know?" Nissa asked, her voice cracking with emotion she couldn't suppress. Centuries of isolation and loss suddenly overwhelming her defenses. Dr. Chen smiled sadly, thinking of all the people he'd failed to save, all the mistakes that haunted his dreams. "Because maybe this time I can make a difference, because you deserve a chance to live. Because it's the right thing to do." Nissa felt tears forming in her eyes, something she hadn't experienced in decades. "If I do this, if I accept your offer, there may be consequences neither of us can predict. Our peoples are not meant to share this kind of intimacy." "Then we'll face those consequences together," he replied, moving closer, his warmth radiating against her cold skin. "I'm not afraid, well, I am terrified actually, but I'm willing. You don't have to die alone today." With trembling hands, Nissa reached for him, her fingers touching his face with a gentleness that surprised them both, feeling the life force pulsing beneath his skin. the vibrant energy that could save her if she dared to take it. Dr. Chen closed his eyes, his breath steady despite his racing heart, offering himself completely, trusting in a stranger because some instinct deeper than logic told him this was meant to happen. Nisa leaned forward, her lips brushing against his neck, feeling his pulse quicken. "Thank you," she whispered against his skin. "You have no idea what this means." Then she bit down gently, carefully, her fangs piercing his skin with practiced precision, and the essence of his life began to flow into her, warm and bright and filled with such unexpected compassion that it took her breath away, their connection forming in that instant, binding them in ways neither fully understood yet. The crimson bond. Dr. Chen gasped as the sensation flooded through him. Not pain exactly, but something profound and overwhelming, like every nerve in his body suddenly awakening to a new frequency, his hands instinctively gripping Nisa's shoulders to steady himself against the intensity. Nisa felt his essence flowing into her depleted reserves, rich with emotions and memories that weren't her own, flashes of his life playing behind her closed eyes like fragments of a dream. She saw a younger version of him treating patients in a field hospital, felt his grief over losses he couldn't prevent, tasted his loneliness. She pulled back after only a few moments, her instincts screaming at her to take more but her will stronger, refusing to harm him despite how desperately her body craved the energy. "That's enough," she whispered, licking the small wounds closed with her tongue, the healing properties of her saliva sealing them instantly. Dr. Chen slumped against the wall beside her, his head spinning but his smile genuine. "Well, that was something," he managed, his voice weak but tinged with wonder rather than fear, his hand moving to touch his neck where only the faintest marks remained. "You should rest," Nisa said, her voice already stronger, color returning to her violet skin like dawn breaking over a purple horizon. "What you gave me, it will take time for your body to replenish. You need water and food and—" "I'm a doctor, remember," he interrupted with a gentle laugh. "I know what I need, but first let me look at your wounds. You're hurt worse than just exhaustion." Nisa started to protest, but the concern in his eyes stopped her. Something about his gaze made her feel seen in a way she hadn't experienced in centuries, not as a monster or a legend, but as a person who needed help. "The injuries are old," she admitted quietly. "From when my sanctuary was attacked." Dr. Chen retrieved his medical kit from where he'd dropped it, his movement still a bit unsteady but determined. "Let me see, please. You saved yourself by letting me save you. Now let me finish the job properly." She turned slowly, allowing him to examine the deep gashes across her back, wounds that would have killed most beings, but her kind healed slowly. Too slowly without proper nourishment. His sharp intake of breath told her he understood how serious they were. "These should have been treated weeks ago," he said, his professional tone masking his horror at what she must have endured, his fingers gentle as they cleaned the wounds with antiseptic. "What happened to you?" Nisa closed her eyes against the memories. "The Krell Dominion found our last hiding place. They've been hunting my people for generations, viewing us as abominations, monsters from ancient nightmares. Most of my kind died that night. I barely escaped." "I'm sorry," Dr. Chen said softly, and she could hear in his voice that he truly meant it, his hands steady as he applied synthetic skin to help her healing process. "No one deserves to be hunted like that. My people once ruled vast territories," Nissa continued, finding herself wanting to share her history with him, this human who had given so freely of himself. "We were scholars and artists, builders of beautiful cities, but our need for essence made others fear us, turned us into myths and monsters." Dr. Chen listened as he worked, his touch careful and respectful. "Every species has done terrible things in their past, humans included. It doesn't mean you deserve extinction. You're a person, Nisa, not a monster." Hearing him say her name with such warmth sent an unexpected flutter through her chest. "How did you know my name?" "You told me," he replied. "When you first spoke, you said please and then whispered your name. Or maybe I heard it when we were connected." Nisa realized he was right. During the feeding, their minds had touched briefly. She'd felt his thoughts and apparently he'd felt hers. "The bond," she said quietly. "It's already forming between us. I warned you there would be consequences." "Is it dangerous?" Dr. Chen asked, securing the last bandage and moving to sit facing her, his eyes studying her face with open curiosity rather than fear. "I don't know," Nisa admitted. "My people rarely bonded with other species. The few times it happened in our history, the results were unpredictable. Some bonds faded naturally. Others grew stronger, becoming permanent connections." Dr. Chen considered this. Permanent, how exactly? We would always be able to sense each other's emotions. Location, well-being, Nisa explained, watching his reaction carefully. In the strongest bonds, partners could share thoughts, dreams, even lifespan, though that's more legend than documented fact. And you're worried I'll regret this, he said perceptively, that I'll hate being connected to you. Nisa looked away, vulnerability showing in her expression. Humans fear my kind, you've heard the stories. Once you have time to think clearly, you might wish you'd let me die. Dr. Chen reached out and gently turned her face back toward his touch warm against her cooling skin. I don't regret it. What I feel right now is, it's hard to explain, like I've known you forever, like finding something I didn't know I was missing. That's the bond speaking, Nisa warned, but her voice wavered with hope. It can create artificial feelings of attachment. Maybe, Dr. Chen acknowledged, or maybe it just accelerated something that would have happened anyway. I don't know about you, but I'd like to find out. You need a place to recover, and I need to make sure my newest patient doesn't do anything foolish. Nisa felt a genuine smile crossing her face for the first time in years. You're a strange human, Dr. Chen, most would have run screaming. Call me Marcus, he said, returning her smile. And you're a strange vampire alien, most would have drained me dry without a second thought. I'm Nithorian, she corrected with mock indignation that held real warmth. Vampire is such a crude translation, we prefer essence channeler. Marcus laughed, the sound echoing in the abandoned corridor, bringing life to the dead station. Essence channeler it is, now can you walk? I have a small camp set up in one of the intact habitation modules. It's not much, but it's warmer than this hallway. Nisa stood with his help, surprised by how much stronger she felt already. His essence had been potent, filled with a vitality that surged through her system. Your life force is unusual, Marcus, stronger than it should be. What are you? Just a human who's been through too much and somehow kept going, he replied, offering his arm for support. Though I did receive some experimental treatments after a radiation exposure incident years ago. Maybe that changed something. They walked slowly through the dark corridors, his small light guiding their way. Nisa found herself leaning against him more than necessary, craving the warmth and comfort his presence provided, the bond between them humming with contentment at their closeness. Thank you, she said quietly as they reached his temporary shelter. A small room with sleeping bags and supplies scattered about. For everything, for not judging me, for giving me another chance. Marcus helped her settle onto one of the sleeping bags, covering her with a thermal blanket. Get some rest. We'll figure out the next steps when you're stronger. Right now, just focus on healing. But as he moved to his own sleeping area across the room, Nisa caught his hand. Stay close, she requested, vulnerability clear in her violet eyes. Please. I've been alone for so long. Marcus settled beside her without hesitation, his back against the wall, his hand still holding hers. I'm not going anywhere, you're safe now. We both are. Nisa closed her eyes, feeling truly at peace for the first time in years, the bond between them glowing warm and bright, a connection that promised she would never have to face the darkness alone again, and somewhere in the depths of her ancient heart, something long dormant began to awaken. Shadows of the past morning came to the abandoned station in the form of artificial lighting cycles, pale illumination gradually filling the habitation module where Nisa and Marcus had spent the night. She woke to find him still beside her, his hand wrapped around hers, his breathing deep and peaceful. She studied his face in the growing light, the strong jawline softened by sleep, the worry lines around his eyes that spoke of years carrying heavy burdens. Something about watching him sleep made her chest tighten with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Something dangerously close to affection, Marcus stirred, his eyes opening to meet hers. Morning, he murmured, his voice rough with sleep. How are you feeling? Better than I have in months, Nisa admitted, reluctantly releasing his hand as they both sat up. Your essence, it's still sustaining me. I can feel it working through my system, healing damage I'd given up on repairing. That's good, Marcus said, stretching carefully, checking his own condition with practiced efficiency. I feel surprisingly okay considering, a bit tired but nothing serious. Your saliva must have some restorative properties along with the healing. Nisa nodded. The feeding is meant to be symbiotic when done correctly. The donor receives accelerated healing and immune system enhancement, though most of my victims throughout history never lived long enough to experience the benefits. Victims, Marcus repeated quietly, standing to prepare a simple breakfast from his rations. Is that how you see your past? How else should I see it? Nisa asked, accepting the nutrition bar he offered even though her kind didn't require solid food, touched by the gesture. I've taken essence from hundreds of beings over my lifetime, sometimes by choice, sometimes by force, sometimes simply to survive. Marcus sat across from her, his expression thoughtful rather than judgmental. Tell me about your world, about Nethoria before everything fell apart. I want to understand who you really are. Nisa felt tears threatening again, surprised by how easily this human broke through her defenses. Nethoria was beautiful once, she began, her voice distant with memory. Our cities were built from crystal that captured starlight, turning day and night into symphonies of color. We had gardens that grew in the absence of gravity, art galleries spanning entire moons. What happened? Marcus prompted gently, sensing the pain beneath her words. We grew too powerful, Nisa continued, her hands clasped tightly together. Our technology advanced beyond what neighboring species could match. Our lifespan stretched across millennia, while theirs burned out in decades. Fear turned to hatred, hatred turned to war. She closed her eyes, seeing the flames that had consumed her homeworld. The coalition formed slowly. Dozens of species united by their terror of us. They said we were parasites, abominations that fed on the life of others. They weren't entirely wrong. But you didn't ask to be what you are, Marcus said, moving to sit beside her, his presence a comfort. You were born into this existence shaped by biology you didn't choose. That's what I told myself, Nisa whispered. But the truth is more complicated. My people made choices. We could have found synthetic alternatives to sustain us, but we preferred the intimacy of direct feeding, the connection it created. We were addicted to the bond as much as the essence. Marcus took her hand again, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. What was your life like before the war? Did you have family, friends? Someone special? Nisa smiled sadly. I had a partner once, Theron. He was a musician. Could make the crystal towers sing with just a touch. We were bonded for 3 centuries before the Coalition's first attack. He died defending a refugee shelter, giving his life so others could escape. I'm sorry, Marcus said, and through their growing bond, Nisa could feel the genuine empathy radiating from him. Losing someone you love like that? I can't imagine the pain. What about you? Nisa asked, deflecting from her own grief. I felt fragments of your memories during the feeding, loss and loneliness. What's your story, Marcus? Marcus was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. I was married once. Her name was Jennifer. We met in medical school. She was brilliant, funny, always knew how to make me laugh even on the worst days. What happened to her? Nisa asked softly, already sensing the shape of his pain through their connection colony plague. Marcus replied, his voice hollow with old grief. 5 years ago, I was working as a field medic on Kepler Station when the outbreak hit. I tried everything, worked around the clock trying to find a treatment, but the disease moved too fast. He paused, swallowing hard. Jennifer was a xenobiologist. She insisted on helping despite the risk, said her expertise with alien pathogens might make the difference. She caught it while treating patients. Died in my arms 3 days later. I couldn't save her. Nisa squeezed his hand, feeling his pain as if it were her own, the bond between them carrying the weight of shared suffering. That's why you came here to these abandoned places. You're running from the memories. I couldn't stay where everything reminded me of her, Marcus admitted, so I became a salvager, moving from dead station to dead colony, looking for medical supplies to send back to active settlements, telling myself I was doing good while really just hiding from my failure. You didn't fail, Nisa said firmly, turning to face him fully. You fought for her. You tried everything possible. That's not failure, Marcus. That's love, is it? Marcus asked, meeting her violet eyes with his own dark ones, because most days it feels like cowardice, like I'm just going through the motions of living without actually being alive. Nisa understood that feeling all too well. After Theron died, I spent decades in a numbness that felt like safety, convinced myself that feeling nothing was better than feeling pain. But it's not living, Marcus, it's just existing, waiting for the end. And now? Marcus asked, his voice dropping lower. What are you feeling now? Terrified, Nisa admitted honestly, her heart racing. Because for the first time in years, I feel something other than emptiness. This bond we've formed, it's making me hope again. And hope is dangerous when you have nothing left to lose. Marcus reached up, cupping her face gently, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. Maybe that's exactly when hope matters most. When we have nothing left to lose, we're free to take chances we wouldn't normally risk. Nisa leaned into his touch, craving the warmth and connection. What kind of chances are you talking about, Marcus? This kind, he whispered, leaning forward slowly, giving her time to pull away, but she didn't. Instead, she closed the distance between them, their lips meeting in a kiss that was gentle at first, tentative, then deepening with the intensity of two lonely souls finding unexpected solace. The bond flared between them, amplifying every sensation. Nisa could feel his desire mixing with her own, his nervous excitement, his fear of losing someone again, all of it flowing through their connection in waves of emotion that left them both breathless. When they finally pulled apart, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. I haven't felt anything like that since. I know, Nisa interrupted softly. Neither have I. The bond makes everything more intense. Every touch, every emotion, it's overwhelming. Is it always like this? Marcus asked, his hands sliding down to her shoulders, holding her close. I don't know, Nisa confessed. I've never bonded with a human before. Everything about this is unprecedented, dangerous. We could be making a terrible mistake. Marcus pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. Or we could be making the best decision of our lives. Either way, I'd rather take the risk than spend another day pretending I'm content with emptiness. Nisa felt something breaking open inside her. All the walls she'd built to protect herself crumbling under the weight of his sincerity. The Krell are still hunting me, she warned. Staying with me puts you in danger. They won't stop until I'm dead. Then we'll face them together, Marcus said with surprising determination. You're not alone anymore, Nisa, and neither am I. Whatever comes next, we'll figure it out. She kissed him again, pouring centuries of loneliness into the connection, feeling his response through every fiber of their bond. I don't deserve this, she whispered against his lips. Don't deserve you. Neither of us deserves to be alone, Marcus replied, holding her as if she were something precious rather than something feared. So maybe we deserve each other instead. Two broken people finding a way to be whole. Nisa laughed through tears she didn't remember starting. You're a hopeless romantic, Marcus Chen. How did you survive this long in such a harsh universe? I'm starting to think I was just waiting, he said, brushing her tears away gently. Waiting for someone to remind me why survival matters. Why hope is worth the risk. Outside their small shelter, the abandoned station continued its silent drift through space. But inside, everything had changed. Two souls from different worlds had found each other in the darkness, and neither was willing to let go. Hearts across the void. The days that followed transformed the abandoned station into something neither Nisa nor Marcus had expected. A sanctuary where two broken souls learned to be whole again. They explored the empty corridors together, Marcus searching for supplies while Nisa regained her strength, their bond growing deeper with each passing hour. Marcus discovered an observation deck with intact windows, the stars stretching endlessly beyond the glass. He brought Nisa there one evening, spreading blankets on the cold floor to create a space that felt almost intimate, despite the emptiness surrounding them. I used to come to places like this with Jennifer, Marcus said quietly, settling beside Nisa as they watched distant nebulas paint the darkness with color. She loved the stars, said they reminded her how small our problems were in the grand scheme of things. Nisa leaned against him, their bodies fitting together naturally now. Theron felt the opposite. He said the vastness made our connections more precious, that in all that emptiness finding someone who understood you was the rarest treasure. Smart man, Marcus murmured, his arm wrapping around her shoulders, pulling her closer. I think I would have liked him. He would have liked you too, Nisa replied, then hesitated before continuing. Is it wrong that I don't feel guilty about this? About us, I loved Theron deeply, but what I feel for you, it doesn't diminish that, it's something entirely different. Marcus turned to face her, his hand cupping her cheek. Love isn't a finite resource, Nissa. Having loved before doesn't mean we can't love again. Jennifer would want me to be happy. I think Theron would want the same for you. When did you become so wise? Nissa asked, her voice thick with emotion. About 5 minutes ago, Marcus admitted with a small laugh. I'm mostly making this up as I go, but it feels right. You feel right, Nisa kissed him then, slow and deep, the bond between them humming with warmth and desire. I need you to understand something, she whispered when they broke apart. What we have, it's permanent now, the bond has solidified. I can feel your heartbeat as if it were my own. Sense your emotions even when you try to hide them. Good, Marcus said, surprising her. I don't want to hide anything from you. And I like knowing you're there, that I'm not alone in my own head anymore. You're not afraid? Nisa asked, searching his face, of being tied to something you don't fully understand. Marcus smiled, brushing a strand of her dark hair back from her face. I'm terrified, but I'm also happier than I've been in years. That seems like a fair trade. They spent the night on the observation deck, wrapped in each other's arms, sharing stories and kisses and silences that spoke louder than words. The physical intimacy between them growing naturally from the emotional connection they'd built, every touch amplified by the bond until they moved as one. I love you, Marcus whispered against her neck as the artificial dawn began to brighten the observation windows. I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I do. I love you, Nisa. Nisa felt tears streaming down her face. I love you too, she replied, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. I didn't think I'd ever say those words again. Didn't think I deserved to. But with you, everything feels possible. Marcus held her tighter. We'll make it work, whatever obstacles come our way. We'll face them together, I promise you that. But even as he spoke, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashing red. Nisa sat up sharply, her enhanced senses detecting what Marcus couldn't yet. They've found us, she said, her voice tight with fear. The Krell. They're here. Marcus grabbed his pack, already moving into action. How long do we have? Minutes at most, Nisa replied, standing gracefully despite the panic coursing through her. Their hunters are efficient, relentless. They won't stop until I'm dead. Then we don't give them the chance, Marcus said firmly, taking her hand. There's an emergency shuttle in Bay 3. It's old, but I've been restoring it if we can reach it before they breach the station. An explosion rocked the structure. Cutting off his words, the Krell weren't wasting time with subtle entry. They were coming in fast and hard. Nisa pulled Marcus into a run, their bond allowing them to move in perfect synchronization through the twisting corridors. They could hear the hunters behind them, mechanical sounds mixed with organic growls. The Krell were cyborg warriors, enhanced for tracking and killing. They'd been hunting her kind for generations and knew every trick, every hiding place. Marcus and Nisa burst into the shuttle bay, the small craft waiting like a promise of escape. But between them and freedom stood a Krell hunter, its weapons already trained on Nisa's heart. Run, Marcus, Nisa commanded, stepping in front of him protectively. Get to the shuttle. I'll hold it off. Not a chance, Marcus replied, refusing to leave her side. We survive this together or not at all. The hunter advanced, its voice a mechanical rasp. The abomination dies today. Step aside, human, or join her fate. Nisa felt Marcus's determination through their bond, felt his love and his fear and his absolute refusal to abandon her. It gave her strength she didn't know she possessed. You want me, Krell, she said, her voice steady. Come and take me.